All right, hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with a big part of the team of the new HBO series Scavengers. Once again, thanks everybody for making the time. This is really cool. I think it's first thing in the morning for all of you.
No, it's all good. We're up early.
Oh, good. Lots to do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I guess to start, if everyone would want to say like what your role in the show was and how you came to the project, I think that'd be pretty cool. James, if you want to start.
Sure. I'm a writer and a co-EP, and I've just been friends with Joe for a while, and yeah, that's how I got involved.
Okay, very cool. How about you, Benjy? I hope I said that properly.
Yep. I'm Brooke. I'm supervising director on Scavengers Reign, and I met Joe and Sean through just the independent animation world on Vimeo about 8 years ago, and James through them, and yeah, we all share a very similar interest in interesting animation. So that was where all it came from.
Very cool. How about you, Joe?
Bennett, I'm the co-creator on Scavengers, and Scavengers Reign, sorry. And yeah, I was working on the short like 8 years ago, and now we're here.
Very cool. And Sean?
I'm also a writer, co-EP, and I guess I'd known Joe and Charles for a while, but then I remembered Joe showed me the short when he and Charles were working on it, and I animated a little bit, and then got involved in whatever way I could from there.
Very cool. So, Joe, it seems like Scavengers, the short that Scavengers Reign, the new series, is based on, was kind of your baby, your passion project.
Me and Charles, yeah, for sure.
How do you start an independent animation? Just saying independent animation seems like an insurmountable task.
I guess a big part of it was that we all were sort of animating our own work and sort of posting it online. There was a big kind of, I think Vimeo was sort of the hub that we would all kind of like share content at the time, and it was a pretty, I would say, a pretty small community of independent artists, but we all kind of had our own ways of doing the work that we do. I mean, it was all pretty fairly unconventional, and I would say, related to how we were doing Scavengers Reign, I mean, it was very different from how I would say like standard TV production works. And but yeah, I mean, I brought Charles on, and we started making this short, and it was just a lot of it was a few friends from that community that just sort of helped build the short out. Nelson Bowles, Jonathan Jabacondo, Nicole Stafford, and we and Sean Buckelew, we made the short, and then it sort of snowballed into making the pilot. And I was trying to keep the same community, on board. So
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really cool. Was it hard to take a short and adapt the story into an ongoing series?
it was, but these brilliant guys were were super helpful with that. I mean, I think that it felt like the short and the series, really the only thing that was kind of relayed into cherry picked was the world, I guess. We wanted to make that kind of like very lush, rich world with the kind of ecosystems and foliage and all that stuff that we had in the short. But I think we had to sort of start from scratch on the story arcs and the characters and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, Sean and James and Jillian and Jenny, the other writers, Charles and myself, I mean, we just kind of, I think it was I think refreshing to start from scratch, but also a little challenging, especially that you're going off of a short that has no dialogue. That was huge.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to have to take a very cool, very visual concept and stretch it out to have the character moments in the story beats of more traditional TV show. Sorry, the cat.
For sure, yeah. And I think that we also kind of talked about a lot, like in terms of how these characters talk and trying to make it kind of lean into the naturalism as much as possible. I mean, I think that a lot of us are very inspired by live action movies and how characters act in a lot of like things like trying to think of like good examples of like Sorcerer. That was a movie that we brought up a lot.
And I would just chime in and say that like I felt like there was a nice, I mean, story stuff aside, there was a very clear guiding ethos when we first started kind of just cracking what the like visual language of this world was going to be. Like there was a rule that nobody knew martial arts, nobody was like necessarily good at fighting. And a big reference point for us was that scene where Leonardo DiCaprio gets mauled by the bear in The Revenant. That we're like, this is how this is the spirit of this show. That like it's nature just pummeling you, and you might be able to kill the bear, but it just kicks your ass, and it's very visceral. And so I felt like it was sort of hanging story things on that sensibility.
And from an animation perspective and storyboarding perspective, I think it was a really refreshing task for all the artists to kind of throw out the symbols of action animation, which are just sort of like plug and play often, where it's like a character will land in a special Spider-Man pose and then do a cool, roundhouse kick.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of the animators we work with love naturalism. They love like dissecting the way people actually move and behave. And that guiding principle was something that we just carried throughout the whole series. And it just kept building and building and building. And people kept one-upping each other in the animation team to try to do more and more natural acting, which was just phenomenal to watch.
And I would say, like, talking about the short, the world is so specific and built out even as early as the short. So even though, cracking character arcs and dialogue, pose some challenges, like we had this extremely rich bedrock to start building on with like great natural visual storytelling devices, and jumping into something like that was, I don't know, such a joy and so fun to write and work on with these guys.
I saw on the short your world building and character creature design was really, really unique. It wasn't like, oh, it's an elephant but has 6 legs or something. It was all totally original stuff. I'm guessing you got to expand on that going into the series because you had more time to do even more of it. How was that? Like, was it like the most fun part of the process?
Yeah, we did. I mean, honestly, we didn't have that much more time. I feel like with the, if anything, I actually feel like we had more time with the short, just because I was thinking a lot about this stuff, and I was watching a lot of nature docs, and I think Charles and I were kind of like just had a lot of time to kind of like sit with it, and but we there were a lot of concept artists when we went into the series. There were a lot of concept artists that we thought kind of like fit the bill and understood the kind of naturalism, again, just kind of like leaning into the naturalism. We a lot of stuff was like sort of emulating what already exists in nature, and I think there was just another thing of like, part of the avoiding animation tropes was like, as much as we can, leaning away from like monsters and that kind of crap, and really try to think about this in terms of like, this planet has a very kind of rich ecosystem with so many different kinds of symbiotic relationships, and there's no good or evil, and everything kind of has a utility, a functionality, serves some kind of a purpose. And I think if you kind of like look at it in more like abstract terms, you don't want to put fangs on everything, but no, it was a blast. And I think it was just always just an impulse of like, as much as we can kind of, but like as much as you can, just try to like think outside the box, I guess. And I think that even applied to like the sound design, where it was like, I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
It applied to the sound design.
Yeah.
Applied to the, just in terms of the sound design of like, if this thing looks like it makes this noise, then maybe don't do that noise. Maybe try to think of something else, and that sort of thing. And how that species or organism kind of functions in this bigger relationship with other species and other organisms.
So you guys kind of had a pretty good idea of how the world at large works, even if your characters didn't necessarily, it sounds like.
Yeah, that was
it's a lot like the way that we operate on Earth. I think it's like there is a relationship we should be having with our planet, but we are humans and we operate, in a kind of barreling forward mentality because we have our human problems to deal with.
I was going to say also that I felt like from in writing it that it was always trying to think of things, yeah, as part of a system. So it's just like it isn't just a random monster. It's if there's a big predator, it sort of exists in an ecosystem with here's all the prey, and here's the way that the prey will eventually outmaneuver the predator, and then it will reach some kind of balance or something. And even if there's sort of violence in the middle of it, it's like you understand it as like it's not a big evil thing. It's just a natural cycle.
There's this cool subjective objective thing going on where the viewer is getting a chance to look at the way the systems work, but the characters are in the scrum of it. They're in the middle of it. And sometimes these characters finally, they get this like outside perspective to sort of see how it all works together. Ursula and Ozzy, I think, have a chance to do that. Mostly the other characters are just stuck in their own little world.
It's really cool. It seems like you really got to go into world building, creative, and like really hard science fiction stuff, which I'm sure was a ton of fun. But also, like you were just saying, with your characters' perspectives, to take the human problems into a bizarre environment, and we bring our baggage with us, and to explore both sides of it. Sounds like it must have been a really fun project.
Yeah, it was a blast.
How much have you seen?
I just saw the short.
Okay.
I haven't seen Scavengers Reign yet. I've seen Scavengers.
Gotcha.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to diving deeper. It sounds really cool. And just independent animation, I got to give everyone involved credit for doing that because that's tough.
It is, but I think there was something with that where we didn't know any better, and I think we kind of went in a little naive, and I think that served as beneficial in a lot of ways. It's like the guy's like right here. He's just next to me.
We're getting a new kitchen installed in our office.
But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of like worked in our benefit in a lot of ways, and we didn't think of it as being kind of like unorthodox or an unorthodox kind of style of working. It was just something that we were sort of used to doing, and
just get the project done.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Direct continuation of the way we've been working for 8 years or 10 years. So
we're just about out of time. So if I don't know, someone wants to take the reins and say where they can find Scavengers Reign, if you guys want to, put your socials out there or whatever.
Sure. Scavengers Reign, it's on Max. The finale is this Thursday, 10 through 12. So that's a wrap. And socials, I don't know. You guys want
at Green Street Pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, Green Street Pictures.
Very cool. Well, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I will be checking out the series. It looks really cool. The short was very cool. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you
so much.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks,
Ed.
Thanks.
Take care.